It seems I'm finally on, folks. Sorry about that. I had to reapply my Twitter account. Hi, I'm Trav, and this is the premiere episode of Campaign Notes. Sorry about being late. I thought the tech was working. If you know me, I'm a bit of a tech tard. This is all new for me. Now, some disclaimers before I start this series I'm doing. I've been wanting to do it now for a couple of years. One, I am not affiliated with any role playing game company. My affiliation with TriTac Games, which I'm very familiar with, ended probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Two, I'm not getting endorsed by any of the products and the publishers that I name. It's because these products work for me. It's not because I'm getting cash from them. So that's a CYA maneuver. For those who don't know, that's cover your ass. That being said, it is Campaign Notes. Now, a bit about me. My given name is Robert Pulaski. I'm a suburban Detroiter. I go by Trav. That is my online persona. I've been a tabletop gamer for approaching 40 years, with about 35 years of that as a game master. During the mid-2000s, I was a game publisher and designer for TriTac Games, owned by the late, great Richard Tahoka, the creator of Bureau 13 and Fringeworthy. I was the project head for Bureau 13 OGL, and I worked on Fringeworthy OGL. I also helped Rich at cons and stuff. I considered him my mentor. I am also a podcaster, co-host, and co-executive producer on Gaming on the Frontier on Podbean. Now, until about 3 or 4 years ago, we were TriTac Games' official fan podcast. We had an amicable split with them, and we do more system agnostic stuff, but we still fall back on TriTac because it's what we know. My co-host Bruce Sheffer and I were very close to Rich. So, yeah, I kind of, am in the role-playing game community. I've done my time. I've seen good stuff. I've seen bad stuff. I've had wonderful players. And I've kind of had players that just, I don't wish harm on people, but they could go the way of the dodo. And the girlfriend just chimed in on this on the chat. Hi, honey. Yeah, I finally figured it out. As I said, you're going to notice I'm a tech tard. I may not get started at 8 o'clock and all the time. You've been warned now. Anyways, I'm known in the role-playing community. I've run games at Con on the Cob in Akron, Ohio, at MarsCon, the dementia-based MarsCon in Minnesota, and not the one down in Virginia. Apparently there's two different MarsCons. It's the one in Minnesota, always on the first weekend of March. I do believe I've run games at PenguinCon. Yeah, so, Gen Con, of course, 2012 through 2015. That's how I got my badge. And so my main engine of choice is OGL. Now, Pathfinder First Edition. Here's the thing, though. If you know all this, you know that... And I'm going to get deep into some rules here and deep into some things. I'm here for 2 hours. Yeah. So, technically, you could reverse engineer an AD&D 2nd Edition character to Pathfinder First Edition. In 2000, there was a conversion guide done by Skip Williams and Jonathan Tweed, I believe, for Wizards of the Coast, to update from 2E D&D to the OGL 3.0. Then, to get to 3.5, they did a bunch of PDFs that were available on Wizards. I'm sure if you look on the internet, you could find them. Then, when that Pathfinder First E came out, Paizo did a 3.5 conversion to Pathfinder. So, there was one time that fellow Twitch person and former protege, Professor Pixie, who's here on Twitch, she sat here in my living room, my apartment, I call it Command Central, and I converted a 2E character to Pathfinder First Edition, plus house ruled the hell out of it in 15 minutes. So you can sit there and do all this stuff with, you could use 2nd Edition stuff, 3.0, 3.5, D20 Modern, and Pathfinder 1E stuff. And there are rules through Legendary Games Arcforge series where you can convert Starfinder stuff to Pathfinder and back. So needless to say, I have a lot of stuff to work with. People who know me know of the folders upon folders of... I've lost count of the PDFs I have. I've bought multiple copies of books. Breakman Z, another fellow Twitch person and co-host on my shows in the chat now, AZ, has about 8 of my old Palladium books because I went to the 2018 open house and bought, and I come home, I'm like, son of a... AZ, would you like some books? So yeah, I have so much role-playing stuff, I've forgotten what I have. And it's a lot easier to keep track of the PDFs than hard copy, because PDF I can just look, I downloaded from this site. Cool. Books, no. I think I had at one time 3 copies of Starfinder Alien Archive 3. That's how much stuff I have. So OGL and Z, to which I said, I will not say no to free books. Yeah. Spoken like a true gamer. Meanwhile, this is the man who's going on stuff like you, I'm old, and I remember Thaco. Oh, Velos, I do too. I remember Here's the thing. I didn't... First edition back in the day, okay, fine, did. The red box, blue box, yeah. I totally went over second edition because when I started role-playing at age 18, 19, I am 54 now. It was Marvel Superheroes, the hero system with champions. Robotech and other Palladium games for the first edition, of Robotech for Palladium books. What other ones did we do? We tried to dabble in the storyteller stuff, that fell through. So we were playing other games, and so we totally went over second edition. And so third edition, I got into that. And of course, this was Microsoft, after... And I kind of have a god-devil issue with Microsoft, or not Microsoft. I call Wizards the Microsoft of role-playing. Because, Magic the Gathering. So many tabletop gamers left to do Magic, or what we've affectionately called paper crack. And so here's Wizards all of a sudden coming along going, oh no, we need to we'll make the OGL. And if you're a gamer, you know what happened. Everybody and their grandmother started up a company. 99% of them are not around anymore. And so you have all of this material now, and it was playing off the 3.0 Player's Handbook. So you're getting all these slapped together with stock art PDFs and books about, look, here's how to play a mech warrior using the D&D classes in 3.0. And a lot of them were just... They brought in D20 Modern, and they went future, past, urban arcana, apocalypse. They were going to do a superhero one. I found out that Wizards of the Coast was going to do a D20 Modern Superheroes version. It's just that, by that time, the OGL, they were starting the 4th edition, and so they didn't do it. And also, there were so many other superhero D20 stuff. I got one right here, as a matter of fact. This is one I use often, Aberrant. Aberrant D20 from Art House and White Wolf. I need to have my books set up here in future episodes. Okay, I want to show these off, have it plotted a little more. Say, here's this one. Here's this one. Here's this one. Oh, I don't have a book for that, just PDF. Here's this one. And then just set them over here. But yeah, that just happened to be there. So there were so many OGL superhero rules. There's Blood and Vigilance. There's Powered Hero Evolution from Scorched Earth Studios. There's the Trinity Universe stuff, where you can either do pulp, modern-day superheroes, or far future sci. And so I've been using OGL as my main thing. I have done Palladium campaigns. Problem is, the last one I did, they didn't like the rules, so I just converted. It's a bitch trying to, and I don't know if they're swearing on this. If I get popped, I get popped. I'm here to get away from, the man who had to go to sit in a booster seat in order to testify to Congress. Yeah, you know who I'm talking to, Zuck. Anyways. Palladium books, I have them all over there. I am 9 minutes from Palladium Books' HQ. It is just down the street. And as I said, I got the T-shirt for the 2018 open house. Kevin Sabita calls me the local Pollock. So, actually, I started with Palladium Books. My dad, years and years and years ago, I guess he was dating a woman who worked when Palladium was still downtown. So he got me the first two Mechanoid Invasion books on the old newspaper type paper, newsprint paper. And so I had that, and I looked at it, cracked it open. I'm sitting there in my grandpa's back TV room. I could do this. 30 some odd years later, I'm doing it for his competition, TriTac Games, now run by the late great Rich DeHolka. He's been gone now just over 6 years. And I'm here in a chat, and somebody hit swirl instead of swear, and yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to change my settings on Twitch. 18 and older. Oh yeah, I'm much older than 18. So, anyways, auto cucumber messing up my time. Oh my god. I'm gonna say this. Those of you who are involved in dementia, you know this. Comedy music. Auto cucumber. By the way, that's my new techno power salad cover band. Anyways. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm also Michigan's longest-running internet radio DJ with the Travcast, Part 3 of Blind Wolf's Rubber Room Association on DementiaRadio.org. So, yeah, I have a digital footprint on it. This is my first pure video. I used to, use this to do Facebook Live, but tomorrow night I will be doing my show via Facebook Live. Barring any other issues, like this separating from my Twitch account, even though it said it was there. Anyways. So yes, I've been role-playing for 35 years. Yes, and 30 of those are, 18, 54, 36. Yeah, so 3 decades of GMing. And I have made my mistakes. I will gladly let you people know the stupid stuff I've done so you don't do it. Granted, it's a learning experience, but you got friends you've known for 30 years, and whenever you see them, they still bust your chops about it. It's getting a little old. It's the reason why I don't hang out with these people anymore. Unless I really, really have to. Other than that, I don't, it's like, no, I don't want to remember the time that I tried to draw a mansion and it was a square. Get off me. You make mistakes when you're going through your first 5 or so years of game mastering. You learn your style. You find your groove, as it were, and what works for you. And I've had people leave my groups because they don't like my style. And what it is, I will pull stuff from like 15 different books. 2 of my gamers are in the chat now, my girlfriend Fur and my buddy Breakman Z, co-host on the show also. And they know I pull from all, but it's because I want to get the exact thing for my characters that my players are running. I want to have it where it's exact as possible. And so I've had players just leave because they can't follow with just one book. And that's fine. One of the rules that you're going to have as a game master, nobody is forced to sit at your table. If they want to leave, if you talk it out and it's not working, then fine. Other rules I've had over the years for game mastering is that I have done more than a few intellectual properties into game worlds. Now, thankfully, a lot of them are pre-done for your pleasure in one way or another. Star Wars did a D20 ages ago. Wizards of the Coast did that. And a lot of people didn't like it. They preferred the West End system, but the first edition D20 Star Wars actually had a conversion from the old West End games. Now I'm going back there. If I'm talking West End D6 Star Wars, I've got some city miles with role playing. And so what they did is, at the back of the first one, the first edition, because the second edition is when they brought in all the prequel trilogy stuff. It was a conversion chart, and it worked out, and it was pretty good. Star Trek, of course, the closest thing that we have. Well, it is a D20. Star Trek, It was done by a dear late friend of mine who we lost this year in the role playing designer community, Jonathan Thompson of Battlefield Press. My brother from another role playing game designer mother down in Shreveport, Louisiana. He passed away due to a bunch of health problems starting last October. And the last time I talked to him was I interviewed him on Gaming on the Frontier, and then I found out in January he lost his left arm from about mid forearm down, and then the next month he died. And so I am back at you, Velos, back at you. And I know for you it was a little dicier than me. Just. So yeah, Prime Directive D20 Modern would be the Star Trek OGL. And it's based more on Starfleet battles, so you got to do your own, like, have memory alpha at the ready. But as far as the classes and the tech and everything, no, it's all there. It's great. I use Prime Directive D20 Modern for my Star Trek stuff. Farscape, okay, there was the AEG game. We don't talk much about that. It was not well received. AEG, they kicked ass on Stargate. They put out like 8 books, and then there was... And then Farscape, you had 1 book, some stuff on their site, and then that was it. I was actually asked to join a project we're going to do Farscape D20, and it's going to be a fan book and all this. I said, I'm running 3 campaigns. I appreciate that you want me to help you. I don't have the time, because I think I was still also working on for Tritech at that time. So trying to do that, plus Tritech, plus all that, no, just... So... Yeah, it was... I've seen a lot of things in my time in the role-playing game community. I have met some big names and seen some big names in the role-playing game community. If you ever get a chance, go to Gen Con and go to the Ennies. Now, this is kind of like role-playing games, Oscars, Tonys, Emmy, Grammy type thing. And they have best source book, best adventure, best artist. Okay, they have all this stuff. I'm sitting there, I believe it was 2012. Yeah. And I got my buddy Peter Bryant, a.k.a. Blix, who was big in the podcasting industry until a few years ago. Not only was he with me on what is now Gaming of the Frontier, I was also with him on the Mythwits. Mythwits.com, I believe, is still up, so you see all the old video casts that they did. I would be brought in every so often as a special guest, but I was there in the transitory episode from the Con Men podcast to the Mythwits, and I was there 2 or 3 times. And I've known Blix now for like 10, 15 years. So I got Blix on the right of me, and I got Dr. Nick Palmer of Panic Productions, who put out Modern Adventures. It's one of the better, let's do Pathfinder 1E modern style. So I got Nick to the left of me, Blix to the right of me. And I'm having to sit on my hands and bite my tongue, because I'm seeing... okay, yeah, I saw Michelle Lyons McFarlane over there, fine, we're Facebook friends. No, I'm seeing Wolfgang Barr, the people for Cobalt and everything. And these are people who all work with TSR. I'm sitting there going... because I'm trying not to scream like a fangirl. And Blix is... he's going to fangirl. He's going to shut up, no fangirl. Nick's going, no, he's definitely fangirl. Like, you two shut up! Because it was... we had, all these people, and I got their stuff on my shelves and my laptop and all this, and they're right there in front of me. And so, yeah, it's if you're into the role-playing and you want to see what's what, it's interesting to see the Ennies, because you see what the hot stuff is for that year. Also, point of note, the Cobalt book for world building actually became a college textbook. How to make a fantasy world, I guess, was a college class somewhere, and so... the teacher decided, we're using this for our book for this semester. So it got best source book because of that. It is the required reading for a college course, a role-playing, world-building book. See, and sure, you gamers out there, you all add relative. What are you going to do? This game ain't going to get you nothing. It's not a real job. It's a stupid hobby. And then of course you get the people. How can I? My dear friend, there was a comic book store owned by the late publisher of Caliber Comics, Gary Reed. His manager Chet Jacques told me the lady who came in and was like this, screaming, "Demonology, demonology!" because behind her back, her kid bought the Palladium Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game. And so she's screaming because she thought it was demonology, and screaming like that really loud. The store where it was just down the street that way. And Chet Jacques is trying to explain, no, this is about mutant animals. They are mutated by science. They don't do magic. Demonology, demonology. No, they're not demons. They're mutant animals. They fight bad guys. And after a while, the lady, he had to, accept the return and give the lady her money back. Because we had these people, the 80s chair, the Jack Chicks were actually... We roll... Okay, all right, here we go. I don't want to hear anything in the chat about, you don't know nothing about persecution. No, but we role players took our decent amount of shit in the 80s because everybody thought we were Satanists. If you hear the Dead Alewives track, they're taking a piss on that thing, but still. Role players have taken crap because of everyone thought, we're summoning demons and wearing robes and sacrificing virgin, all this. No. And you now have Hollywood's D&D Club with Joe Manganiello. You have Todd Stashwick from Star Trek Picard, who played Captain Liam Shaw with the nerdcircus.com. He's reveling in this. He's getting his own Star Trek D&D club going. And I believe he does 5e. I just looked at... I got scared off after 4e. That's why I went to Pathfinder, because I just looked at 4e and said, this ain't for me. There's no converting. And here's the thing. They even made it where, I believe it was Exemplars of Evil and Elder Evils Wizard, that was like 2 of the last 3.5 books they made, and it was to destroy your 3.0 campaign and start fresh with 4.0. There was no converting. Wizards did that intentionally. And of course we all know now who Wizards is owned by. And we all know the stuff that parent company has now done. And I'm looking over my glasses because it's IYKYK. If you know, you know. And so you have Wizards doing that, and they wanted to get everything all digital and get all the MMORPGers in. I stopped playing MMORPGs in 2009. It's like, give me... And there's nothing... I bust LARPers' chops. I had a girlfriend years ago who was a LARPer. I said, I don't hold that against you. Yeah, so... But in the end, LARPing, it takes a lot of dedication. It takes, a decent wardrobe. And no, you have LARPing, fine. You have the video games, fine. Role-playing, it's the theater of the mind. And props are good. Speaking of props to Andre Krupa, who does it all the time. He'll get fog machines going, and, yeah. We got to interview him years ago. I'm still Facebook friends with him. But yeah, role-playing is all about imagination. It's collective storytelling. I set the tone, give the players what their characters are perceiving and what's going on, and then I do. And it's collaborative storytelling. It's the best way to describe it. And so you have this wonderful medium that I have campaigns going back 35 years that I've pulled. Okay, I'm making a sequel campaign based on my Saturday night campaign I'm running, which both Fur and Breakman Z in the chat are involved in. Fur is playing a 1924 pimp and legal businessman from Harlem, colloquially known as Big G. And Z is playing a 200-year-old vampire. This game is based in 1924 in the Wold Newton universe. Now, if you know... Yeah, no, that was the last campaign. That was the Robotech Nightbane mashup campaign I did. I had a big map, and I didn't have figurines, so I just grabbed stuff in Jeff DeRef and Professor Pixie's Kitchen. Again, also, Jeff DeRef. Check out his Twitch channel. Check out Professor Pixie's channel. This is all what they, Austin calls cross-mogenation. We didn't have I don't have the mech figures that this tall, so it's like, okay, on this square, this tomato, it's big enough, fine, it's a huge size mech. Oh, this person on top of that mech, here's this syrup pack. Z has the picture of me with the map and using the tomatoes and all this, and yeah. What is it that Edison said, before he stole everything from Tesla? Necessity is the mother of invention. I said what I said. But yeah, collaborative storytelling. And Oh no, it's interesting because we have Fur playing Big G, 6 foot tall, 300-pound black man who has several illegal activities in Harlem. We have Breakman Z, who is a 200-year-old vampire from Europe, a monster who's hunting the monsters. Jeff DeReff is playing Knuckles DeLucci, a Chicago mobster who basically went stool pigeon, realized if he stayed in Chicago, he was a dead man, so he hid in New York. Our dear friend Jennifer King, we adore her. She is playing Drina Barrett, a Roma wanderer. And yes, I know there is a G term that you talk about them that is like the N word for the Roma, so I will try not to say it. The character's name is the Dark Gypsy. We use it only in context. When we are talking about Drina any other time, unless it is in character, we refer to Roma. Yep, for Black Thunder. Yeah. Let's see. We have Jennifer's old friend, along with my roommate's old buddy, Todd, playing the Night Fox of Queens. Basically, an animal motif vigilante. Queens is his stomping grounds. He knows every square inch of that borough. And so Todd's just really got in. It's funny. Oh, I've never done anything like Pulp. Todd nails the elder Henry Jones, Sean Connery's character. He's got the white beard, the hat, he's got the... And just, yeah. But, I don't do Pulp. I'm sitting there on the Skype call. Look, really? Yeah. Colleen, Goth Bunny, this would be Professor Pixie's mother, is playing Lillian Masterson, socialite detective. And then, of course, I play Dale Corrigan, the Silver Spirit, which is sort of a Batman kind of, hooded vigilante. And I'm going to see Silver Codpiece from Fur over here in the chat. Yes, I'm expecting it. I hear you typing. I know you that well. We've been together 5 years. Cheap book. Reading you like a cheap book. So, yeah, we have all these pulp characters, and so we get together and tell this story of how they're trying to protect New York City from... And, of course, the reason why I said this is because this campaign started from a one-shot that I ran at Adrian College like 10, 15 years ago. The Sentinels of Justice. A Melor, and if you know about Fringeworthy, touch telepathic shape-changing, and then they get a retrovirus that turns them into killers. And they can also split exponentially and turn into little eating monsters about this big. Melor messed with them, and so to continue the campaign, it's like, no, one of them went back time and killed all of those who were in that campaign, except for one, my NPC, Dale. Now, my players don't know that this happened, about the time travel and all that. They just recently killed the Melor that came back in time. So, and it was a visceral kill, and Z enjoyed it wonderfully because I had him get away from him once. So, I'll recycle campaigns from 10, 15, 20 years ago. Also, something else I do, and this is something that the professor and I got into. I adore Professor Pixie. I consider her one of my closest friends. She is, once again, a new mother. She and Jeff have a 4-year-old son, and then now they have a new son that's like a week and a half old. Maybe 2 weeks old this week. And one of the things, another property that I have transferred over was I helped Pixie, Josie, convert Pokemon to D20, OGL, Pathfinder. And so one of the things that Pixie was having trouble reconciling was, okay, you have grass, you have psychic, you have earth, you have fire, to the creature types in the Pathfinder bestiary. Yeah, Z, I greatly enjoyed that kill. It was glorious. You're welcome. It was overdue. So Josie was having kind of a disconnect on, okay, trying to convert that to humanoid, monstrous humanoid, aberration, plant, vermin, undead. All the 9 or 10 creature types that are in OGL. We're both autistic. She had to throw her notes. Throw them away. If you all remember the scene in Spider-Man, the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, where Tony Stark steps out of the armor and rips Peter a new one, that was me. And my main thing was you respect the notes you make. I have notes from 30 years ago. You don't throw your shit out. So, yeah. A little bit of apple cider to wet the throat there. So, yeah. I'll drag campaign, and that's another thing. A campaign idea, you may have it, it may not be right at the time. In other words, you come up with this campaign idea and you think it's great. Of course, see, in a way, game masters are like writers, where things that you write are like your babies. And you running the campaign is you showing off, look at my little baby, so adorable. And then none of the players like it. Just because that group did not like it, or there was something that you had not found yet, you thought you were ready and you weren't. Keep the campaign idea. You can either use snippets and pieces of it, or the full-out campaign later on. And it may be 5, 10, 15 years later, you find these notes and say, you know what, I have this new mechanic. I ran this in 3.0. Let's run it in Pathfinder 1st Edition. Or I'm going to run it in Savage Worlds. I got a bunch of stuff for that. My late buddy Jonathan Thompson also did the Robotech Macross War for Savage Worlds. So you have these notes, and they'll come up with future ideas later. I've used alien races. Oh, I made them for this campaign. No, now they're in this campaign. And of course, the good thing about Fringeworthy, the world's first interdimensional role-playing game from Tritech, you can have alternate Earths and have the same alien races, just give them a different name. And so you have... I think I have my humanoid Pegasus race, at least in 2 of my worlds. The homebrew world that I had for the comic book I tried doing, called The Travelers, from which I get the name Trav. And the Bureau 13 universe. I put the Pegasusians in there due to fanfic that Rich got to read, and he said, yeah, oh no, all your stuff is fine. He trusted me and Bruce Sheffer and John Ryer and Blix that much. He called us the Tritech Brain Trust when 4 of us were doing the podcast. So I've scammed stuff from other campaigns, and it's just a dimensional analog. So, talking about converting intellectual properties. Recently, Jeff DeReff and Professor Pixie and I think Breakman Z helped a little, Skyrim. Now, we did a couple of episodes of adding Fringeworthy to Skyrim, and Jeff was on that. So Jeff and I spent some afternoons together, and we sat there and said, okay, you need to figure out this and this, and I've got the Skyrim wiki up, and I know nothing about Skyrim. I don't play video games. To date myself, my video game experience comes from the Atari 2600. If you know, you know. That means that was all. And it's like Jordan Holland. Wow, were they made out of stone? Come so close. Just come so close. Please. Come here. Just come so close. So he and I and Josie are all trying to plot out how to do a Skyrim campaign. And he ran it for a little while. He and the professor are going to do it as their way of, running it at a con to get money. And that's fine. We tried. The things didn't work out. I can't be a player. I've tried. I haven't been a player regularly in 15 years. So I started a spin-off campaign with 3 of the characters. And of course, with the baby coming, they got busy. So, yeah. But we sat there, and one of the things I told Jeff about converting an intellectual property, you're never going to get 100% conversion. There's just certain things that rules will not allow, or it's too much into the setting. Dragon shouts. Now, if you know about Skyrim, you know about the concept of the dragon shouts and the dragonborn. The best way I had to do it was, oh no, if you're dragonborn, you're a mythic character. So you become a spellcaster, and you have the ability to use it's either that or use Pathfinder Ultimate Magic's Words of Power. But that means then I had to sit there and learn a totally new magic casting system. And I told Jeff, you also don't want to inflict that on your players. That's going to scare people off. If you run this at a con and all of a sudden you do the Words of Power thing, which maybe 5 people know about, yeah, you're not going to... And I know why they did the Words of Power, because the Words of Power spellcasting mechanic. And it's an alternate spellcasting system. It's on the Pathfinder SRD. It is because that is how it was in Storyteller. Now, I ran a Time Lords of Magic campaign with my friend Perky Goth, Gene Osborne. And I did not want to do. I just said no. I'm not doing the words thing. And I think it's before I realized Ultimate Magic had that in there. If so, I would have had those who cast. Okay, you're doing the words and all this. And I told Gina, we're not having them learn a new. No, just use it regular. So as I said, either because the rules won't allow it, or because you're trying to keep it simple for your players, you are never going to get a 100% total conversion of an intellectual property into a game setting. And if you notice, like, oh, Star Wars D20, they'd probably had to make up stuff. And they had to make up stuff for Prime Directive D20 Modern. And they had to make new rules for Farscape, which I could not stand. I'm not too familiar with the spycraft mechanic, but I looked over the Stargate stuff. Looked pretty good. But, yeah, there were things that Josie wasn't really keen on about the Pokemon conversion, and Jeff with the Skyrim. And I said, you're just either going to have to come up with a house rule, figure out something, or just it's not part of your campaign. This is what happens when you're trying to convert intellectual property. And we've had to do it plenty of times on Robotech. If you know me and you know I love Robotech, I've got all of it on DVD. I've got all of the books that Palladium put out. I have Robotech, the Macross Saga from Savage Worlds from Jonathan Thompson. And, yeah, trying to convert Robotech from the Palladium to the OGL. And, of course, again, we all know Kevin Sabita's warning. It was eyeballed. Just before anybody, oh, yeah, Trav, the local Pollock guys, it was all eyeballed. I'm not trying to sell it anything. Let's just... So we have me trying to find the rules to make the mechs perfect, try to find the right way to do the classes, build the starships that are in Robotech. The Zentradi, that was a thing. So yeah, you're not always going to find perfect things, and you may have to leave something you like out because you have no idea how to convert it. And so you have this, and it's just like, this receding hairline, yeah, I've been through 2 divorces. Yes, I have people in my life who vex me every once in a while. A lot of this hair was lost from trying to convert stuff in my games. So yeah, it's... You want to keep your hair, be a player, not a GM. Being a GM is a wonderful experience, but it's harrowing, it's time-consuming, and I run 4 bi-weekly campaigns. Let's just tick this down, shall we? A little bit more of my curriculum vitae and why I feel I am qualified to do this. On Thursday nights, I have Nymph, Rich, Z, Carrie, Will, Courtney. Running cyberpunk superheroes, and this is the aforementioned Travelers universe that I had that I tried to... It was a failed attempt to be a comic book writer in 92. Blame the first wife on that. Why that fell through. On alternating Fridays, Hardwired Hinterland from TriTac Games, and that is the aforementioned Carrie, Fur, the aforementioned Courtney, Carrie's friend Beth, and our friend Gina Jones. And it's like, wait a minute. Those are all female-sounding names. Well, yes. I am the token XY chromosome person there. And I kind of make it that way. It's like, okay, no, Friday nights, it's because we know how non-male gamers are still treated in this industry. Yes, we as a community have gotten better. We have become more inclusive and embracing other people, but many guys still consider it as being old boys club, and that shit gets under my nerves. It gets on my nerves in a big way. We're talking tap dancing with golf cleats on that last nerve. Everybody is welcome at a table. You shouldn't be not welcoming them because they're too young, they're too old, they're not this, they're not that, they're a woman, or they're that. You're all there to tell a story. And if you're going to let... Now, obviously, if they're causing a problem, then yeah, that's something you got to take it. But just because the color of their skin or their genetics or whatever, or who they want to sleep, none of that crap matters. You're there to tell a story. And my Friday night, and I hate using the term safe space because there are people who've tried to ruin that term. Because every single one of these players at one time or another have had to deal with guys who were being jerks at the gaming table. I do my best to try to undo that damage. Obviously, the bell's been rung, but they at least know there's a GM out there that accepts them, welcomes them, is quite amused and entertained by them. So it's the Thursday, Saturday schedule, bi-weekly, and alternating Friday, Sunday. The Saturday game is the pulp game, Wold Newton Universe, 1924 New York. The Sunday game is the spin-off campaign from that Skyrim campaign that Jeff DeReff and Professor Pixie started up. Now it's myself and Breakman Z are in that, along with Fur, Amber, and Michael. And there are some concepts of Skyrim. There are 2 Khajiit in the party. So they got transferred over, shunted, as it were. And I used the Amethyst setting from DSS Machina. Chris Diaz and his people there putting that out. And it's a nice setting. It's what I call rifts done logically. You're not having magic users riding in a mech and they open their hood to shoot a laser bolt. No. In Amethyst, if you wield magic, you can short out technology. Technology only truly works in these massive megalopoli called bastions. And so, it's also a closed cosmology. In my campaign, the only way in or out of the dimension is through the fringe gate that was put there 150,000 years ago. So, but other than that, the only dimensional portals are the positive and negative. The positive energy portal is in between the Earth and the Moon. The negative energy portal is deep in Siberia and has pretty much blackened all of Asia. The negative energy's just corrupted everything. So those are the only dimensional portals, and then I threw in a fringe portal. So yeah, magic and technology are at ultimate animosity in that setting. So we have a Svart Elf Oracle, Amber's character. My character is the typical army guy. He was part of the Fringeworthy team. Fur is playing a slightly tweaked version of the Turkish Netflix hero, The Protector. I highly recommend that. Fur and I love it. The 4 seasons were wonderful. It's about a young Turkish street rat in Istanbul who finds out he is the latest in a line of people who can wear this magical shirt that pretty much makes him invulnerable. And his job is to kill an immortal. This immortal, meanwhile, pretty much owns Istanbul. I've just adapted it to the larger world setting. Turkey is gone in this setting, flooded out, the Mediterranean swelled. And so we tweaked it, and so she's playing Hakan. Z is playing a Khajiit or Catfolk rogue, sniper, caravan guard. And Michael is playing a 3-foot tall, and this is how Michael rolls, and he's never failed to be entertaining. A 3-foot tall Khajiit necromancer whose left hand is possessed by the Jimmy Hoffa of my character's world. We still have yet to find that out. We know that the hand has powers like, oh, through the hand it's dark vision. Fine, there are feats that can do that. We have not actually said it in game. Oh, by the way, yeah, this is Jimmy Hoffa. And, by the way, the stuff you talked about most likely is the one from your world. How are you possessed by the hand of a dead Teamster boss? That's how my games work, people. So yeah, I GM 4 campaigns. Thursday, Saturday, and Friday, Sunday. Plus the podcast every other Wednesday, usually the same as the Friday, Sunday game. I do my show every Tuesday night on Dementia Radio. I've been doing that for 17 years, and now I'm doing this every Monday night. My dance card is full. I really got to schedule time in to do stuff. It's like, no, weekends, okay, that's with Fur, fine, okay, those are set. Okay, Wednesday or Thursday nights, I might have free time depending if I'm running a game or doing the podcast. So yeah, this is why I have not been able to help. Oh yeah, we'd like you to play test it. I'm running 4 campaigns. I can't do it. Sorry, dude. As much as I'd love to help you out, just, yeah. So we have, with role-playing, a chance to make beautiful stories that will last forever. And I'm going to probably go over a lot of points that we've said on my podcast, but because there are people who have not listened to podcasts, I can bring it back. Everything old is new again. One of the things is don't be afraid to use stuff that you've seen from TV, movies, and books. But as my friend J.P. Haley says, rub the serial numbers off and switch it up a little. Because when they think, oh, yeah, oh, you're using the plot from The Mummy Returns, you're using a tiara instead of a scorpion bracelet like Alex McConnell had. And then you find out, no, you're also throwing in something from Indiana Jones. You're throwing something in from a John Carpenter movie. Or mashing up stuff is good because it does keep your players off guard. They think they're going to get one thing, and all of a sudden you hit them with that curveball. Now, granted, from the other side of and my laptop is my GM screen. They're looking at it going, you son of a... But it keeps things alive. It keeps the players on their toes. Another thing you do not want to do as a game master, one, railroading, of course, is forcing your players to be on a set plot. As I said, I'm autistic, which means I got my stuff set. I've had to learn what my old college buddy Jerry Gentry called planned improvisation. I've had to learn to think on my feet, and I can thank being a game master for that. Because I got players that will throw shit out of left field, and I'm like, I got to scramble to figure out what to do. And so, yeah, railroading is the number one sin of a game master. And players can smell it in my eye. If they realize you're trying to do a plot and they do something else and there's this thing going to get you back, you're going to have people, at the very least, yelling at you. At the very most, they'll just get up and leave. Nobody likes being railroaded. It's like corralling an animal. Also, trying to not turn your gaming group into something akin to the comic Knights of the Dinner Table, where it's an adversarial relationship. At the most, it's more like a chess game. If you just have it straight adversarial, you're going to be, it's like South Park thing. You're going to have a bad day because, oh, hey, the con man, okay, buddy of mine, hey, all right. You are going to have, if you sit there and escalate, you're going to end up having just total lack of group cohesion. You're going to bust up friendships. And as I said, I've had friends that I've gamed with now for 30 years. My issue with them is that they keep bringing up the same crap that I did 30 years ago and they still think it's funny. It's not funny. I'm not that person anymore. I am about as far from that type of GM as can be. And so, trying to make an adversarial relationship with your players, that's another good way to end up with no group. And those are the two main things. I mean, there's a bunch of other things you shouldn't be doing as GM, but those are my two main things. One, don't railroad. Two, don't try to make it an adversarial relationship. Or you'll end up like Knights at the Dinner Table, where they're constantly trying to screw each other over. And I've read a few things here and there. Jolly and I are friends on Facebook. And so, yeah, and roommates got it all. So it's like, I'm reading this. I'm going, oh, no, I'd kill all these people. Oh, no, these people would all be gone. Just done. Out the door. Just, scruff of the neck, back, right out the door. Just gone. So, yeah, you're here to have... It's like I say at the end of the Gaming on the Frontier podcast. They call it gaming. There's a reason why it's called gaming. It's for having fun. And so you have this collective storytelling group. You have the one person who sets the beat. It's almost like a band in a way, and I'm not musically inclined, but I see it. Internet radio DJ. I've learned a thing or three about music. You have the GM who's setting the beat. Everybody else with their various characters / instrument is playing a chord, and yeah, there are times it sounds like somebody fell into an orchestra pit, and there are other times it is a symphony. A good group can be a symphony. Starting groups, they often sound like the guy falling in the orchestra pit. A lot of noise, a lot of... But as you get to know your players, and that is something you need to do, is know your players. Know your audience. If you have a bunch of hack and slashers and you want to run a political intrigue campaign, you're going to end up with a lot of board gamers. Also, something else that we say on the podcast, everyone should get spotlight time. I gave spotlight time to Colleen's character, Diamond Lil, because she'd been gone for 5 months in real time. So she helped me come up with the next plot line for the Saturday game, and she was heavy into it. Meanwhile, I kind of had Jeff DeReff sitting on his phone. Jeff DeReff has gotten his spotlight time. This was Colleen's to get her back into the game, give her some agency to start this new plot line. So yeah, spotlight time is all. Oh, another thing of game creation. Find the real, find the mundane, and hang it on a tag of the fantastic, as Rich would call it. This plot line involves, in this Saturday game, it involves the Glozell artifacts in France. They were found in early 1924. From 1924 to like 28 or 30, the Pradin farm in Glozell, France, they found all these chambers with stuff that they've been dating it. It's anywhere from Neolithic to medieval times. So from like 10,000 years ago to 1500 AD. Artifacts and bones and tiles and tablets with weird language on it, and they still can't figure out almost 100 years later what language it is. It could be one of 10, like Basque, ancient Cretan, Turkic, trying to remember the other languages, and just Phoenician. And so Colleen and I came up with that, and I just, okay, boom, off to the races, and now the Saturday group is dealing with this. Not only taking stuff from TV and movies, but digging into history. If you're running something on Earth 1924, Wikipedia is your friend. Or how do we do it in the podcast? The source of all knowledge and wisdom, and then you get the reverb going, Wikipedia. And they put the sources in it so you know, reasonably solid stuff. But don't use it for school. Actually look at the source, kids. So you have grabbing things from around you to make a game. Look into history and sites, and you can even look in real world history and put it in a fantasy campaign or an sci-fi campaign on a world. Oh, this thing was here in 1953, and okay, you can put it on this world and tweak it. If your characters are history buffs, which a few of mine are, one of them has a bachelor's in history, Goth Bunny, they might know of that. And so you draw. It's like they said in Throw Mama from the Train, write what you know. A writer writes, and you are a writer. You're writing down these notes for all of the stuff you do for your campaign. I've got stacks and stacks and stacks of books and notebooks and folders, and yeah, they are all over the place. People walk in, they know that, okay, this man has a lot of books, a lot of paper. Oh, he's a gamer. Okay, yeah, I see the dice there. Yeah. And strangely, nobody's run yet. That's the thing. So yeah, as far as game creation goes, and then I'm doing 4 different campaigns, plus, okay, I worked for Napa Auto Parts for 27 and a half years. My final day there was October 30th, 2020. Until I got my current job at a wood molding warehouse about 5 minutes away from the old job, I created 6 different campaigns. I didn't have much to do. I was unemployed. So, yeah, I had a lot of creative juices flowing. It kept me, my mind, relatively sane. And then, of course, just as I get the job, I get sick. I'm in the hospital with COVID. But yeah, I cranked out 6 different campaigns during that time, and I had a lot of time to research stuff. I think I've still got 1 or 2 campaigns that I still have yet to run out of those 6. So, yeah, grab what you can, find the logical connections for it, and you could put 2 or 3 things together and make something. And just, yeah, it's really easy to make a campaign. You just got to know what to look for. As I said, if you do intellectual properties, you're not always going to get 100% conversion, because just some stuff will not convert. You either come up with a new rule for it, or you leave it out and just say, yeah, you're not going to deal with that in this campaign. Usually most players go, oh, you couldn't figure a way to do that, huh? Just, we don't want to talk about it. No. So, yeah, but after 35 years of, game mastering, and especially doing it for the last 10 to 15, where the only time I've ever played, I tried playing Jeff's game, and it was nothing against Jeff. Jeff is a dear friend of mine. That whole family, Jeff, Josie, Z, I'm family to them, they're family to me. It's just, I had been a game master that long, I could not sit at the other end of the table. Jeff ran my last Saturday game, the Robotech Nightbane mashup that I converted to OGL. But that was like 4 or 5 sessions. That was dipping his toes into the GM ocean. And so, funny story. And you're going to hear a lot of gaming stories of my life and my campaigns on here. So get ready, since this is going to be a weekly thing. We had, it was Robotech mixed with the urban fantasy game Nightbane. Yeah, there were mechs and there was post-apocalypse and it was right after Macross, but you also had magic involved. Now, the original campaign is they transitioned from just after Dark Day. If you know of the Nightbane game, you know what I talk about. All the way up until Robotechnology kicks in. That was the first and then they actually became RDF officers, and they were like investigators. There was a mutant or two. There were a couple soldiers. Goth Bunny and Pixie played Twin Sisters Canadian Army officers. And so the second campaign was a few years later, and those characters went off to another dimension. It's like, okay, we need more people to investigate all this stuff. And just so, let's see, it was... And yeah, this is what I get for not making notes. I totally forgot what the point I was getting because I was backtracking with that. But yeah, Robotech and Nightbane. See, I threw those two games together. That was actually a idea that I sent to Palladium Books for their house organ, the Rifter. And the only reason why it didn't work is because Robotech... Nightbane was theirs, Robotech was a Harmony Gold property, so they couldn't mash it up. Now, I talked with Wayne Smith, the guy who ran the Rifter the magazine. He said, no, it was a good idea. We just couldn't use it. Feather in the cap. So, this has been one of my standby campaigns. And as you all know, I love Robotech and, of course, the Nightbane. It adds that little bit of mystery. It adds that little bit of urban fantasy there. And, of course, what is it these RDF officers do? They're kind of like Bureau 13. It's like, we don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that must have been a mutation from the Wastelands from the Zentradi Reign of Death. Yeah, we've got it. We've taken it to the morgue. Check it out. It was throwing lightning bolts. Well, see, that was electrical discharges, and just so. Yeah, that was an interesting campaign that we did. That was having to convert mechs from the Palladium rules to an OGL rule set, and yeah. I still got a half hour. Well, I don't know. I had a late start, so I might go to 10:15. I don't know if stuff shuts off after a while or what, but yeah, I just want to check something here real quick. Okay. Because I know this will be up on the site when I'm done here. Anyways. And we have the stream chat, and it's all here ready to go. Well, the stream chat's been going pretty well. Yeah, I truth to tell, I didn't expect this much traffic. Hell. So yeah, the reason why I'm doing this, I mean, there's the obvious thing. I've had a lot of people tell me, you should monetize Trav. I've been trying to do that for like 5 years now, and finally, hopefully, it'll get done. Old co-worker of mine, Chuck Kososki. Now, he has his, I think it's Never Happy on YouTube. And his woman, Modisol, does Makeup by Modisol on Instagram and TikTok. Chuck was sitting there telling me, and he told me this, he goes, see, I had to work to get my audience. You have your audience. You just got to tell them you're doing something new. And I sat there, and we're standing there in the hallway, in the corridor there, in what was Section 9 at the old Napa, Detroit, D.C., and I thought, yeah. And so, campaign notes, and it came to mind, and Jeff and Josie and I worked, okay, you want to do this on Twitch, because I wasn't keen on YouTube with the rules that they were doing, especially since Google bought them out. And now I'm finding out, I just found out today that Twitch is trying to model some of the rules after YouTube. Great. Okay. So I started doing this, and I started getting help with Jeff and just trying to sit down and going, okay, trying to do this, and And finally, this past Saturday night, I had the camera I got here. Okay, we're setting this up. And it worked, and you guys on the Twitch channel will see my test from Jeff's place, the locked and loaded battle bridge, as we call it. And then the reason why I'm late is because, the stream key, you need this and check this out. So I just deactivated the Twitch account and re-hooked it up. And so, wait a minute, encoding overloaded considering turning down video settings. Yeah, because I know how to do that, okay? Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. I will have to look at that later. Anyways, as I said, I am a tech tart, folks. I know just enough tech to get myself into trouble. And that was my big thing about nerves this morning was, okay, I know how to use Winamp and Shoutcast. I've been using them for 17 years to do the Travcast. Skype and a multi-call recorder, that's how we do Gaming on the Frontier. Discord, I use that on my show, and I also use that for my Thursday and Friday games. Or no, Saturday and Sunday games. Thursday and Friday, I use Skype. The aforementioned Carrie, our Discords don't want to play. Whenever she talks, I can't run a game like that. So, my whole thing was, okay, new tech, and sure as heck, it wasn't working. And I'm sitting there like, wanting to just flip the laptop. And people who know me know when the laptop ain't working, take Trav to the other side of the room. Have somebody come and fix that, calm me down. I call it's something I came up with in my ASD therapy, mechanical dissonance. If it's techie fixie buildy and I don't know how to do it, if I don't pick it up right away, I want to throw the piece of electronics. And it's just how I am. I have a learning disability. I mean, so yeah. So that is why I made it on here. I'm happy to be on here, and I will probably stay on for the next 45 minutes. I will probably drop off at 10:15, and hopefully next week I'll be able to start on time at 8 p.m. So let's see. Anything else about my curriculum vitae and why I am doing campaign notes. Monetizing Trav, been gaming for 35 years. Bureau 13 OGL and Fringe with it. Worked for TriTech Games for probably about 15 years. Because between working with Rich doing the games and with Bruce and John, and then on the podcast until 10th anniversary, so 4 years ago. So 2018, 2019 is when what is now known as Gaming on the Frontier and TriTech Games had an amicable split. And Rich's widow, Melody Natcher, wonderful woman. I miss her dearly. Haven't seen her in a couple years. She's running TriTech fantastically. Is coming up with a new system. I could not play test it because I'm running 4 campaigns and I do the show on the podcast. And yeah, I told Mel this. I'm like, I would love to help you, Mel. I truly would. I don't have the time. So, but no, TriTech always gets my love because that is the role-playing game company that I met Rich when I was 19. The aforementioned first ex-wife now got me a signed copy of Incursion. And I still haven't. This book's falling apart, folks. It is. I've used the living hell out of it. But I've incorporated all of my campaigns into what I call the Taholkaverse. Bureau 13, Fringeworthy, FTL 2448, Incursion, Eradicator, Murder Hoof, Easy Space. All of these games that Rich Taholka, Hardwired Hinterland, I'm running that now. And so TriTech gets nothing but love from me, and I give it back. I considered it role-playing games' best-kept secret. Because the fan base was hardcore, small, but it got me hooked. And Bureau 13, I believe, won 1983 Origins Best Game. Fringeworthy was the world's first interdimensional role-playing game, and it came out about 12 years before Stargate. Fringeworthy was 82, Stargate, the movie, was in 93. So, yeah, there's a lot of people, and there's a whole generation now that Stargate's been out of the public consciousness enough. Yeah, this game. And they're like, what's Stargate? And we're like, yes. We don't have to get that cross-contamination of the two, and yeah. there are views that I want to say, but I don't know if I should say them. It's sort of because I'm still considered TriTech family. It's sort of things that we know, and it's just certain things. Am I not clear to say because this is just family knowledge here? Just yeah. Because I'm trying to do this, I don't want to end up doing where like, you messed up here. You said something you should have. Oh Christ, I gotta take down that episode or issue a formal apology. That's why I did the disclaimer in the beginning. I don't want to be having people think, oh, yeah, Trav's getting paid by this company because he's hawking tried. No, I'm not getting paid. I've never gotten paid. I got free product, and I got to be on the podcast, and I enjoy all of it. The podcast has evolved to Gaming on the Frontier, but we still fall back on TriTac because it's what Bruce and I know, and Jonathan was taught to be a player by Bruce. And my podcast I enjoy doing. Bruce is our resident cat herder and leading star. What did one person call it? They said, yeah, you're the rock star of this because you do all this and that and the other. I'm like, I just settle down. And then Jonathan, I say, has sat at the feet of a master. Jonathan, at age 15, would be going to, and so 41 now, so this is 26 years he's been gaming. And he would drive to Dragon Con in Atlanta and game in Bruce's games. And he has surprised us with some of the stuff he's come up with, and we've surprised him with the deep bits that we know about TriTech. Wait, this was a thing? No. So, yeah. Working with TriTech and Gaming on the Frontier is just... I've been doing this now for, let's see. If we're on... 13 years podcasting. And there's still stuff I learned from Bruce about TriTech. Stuff that he learned from Rich. Of course, sadly... Rich was trying to get... for those who don't know, Richard Taholka passed away April 27th, 2017 from a 2.5-year bladder cancer battle. Complications due to that battle. And I'm sure that there are things that Rich took with him to the grave, and I tried to, learn as much as I can from him about being a GM and a game designer and everything, and he let me be on the podcast. And just, so yeah. When Bruce will still give that little TriTech tip, I'm like, excuse me, what? I've been playing these games how long, and this is a thing? And, yeah. How I got the game designer gig. Talking with Rich, and there was a Bureau 13 that was put out based on the novels by the late Nick Pallotta, and it just wasn't meshing. Things weren't working. So Rich tried another, and he knew that, I'd play I wrote Rich a 40-question letter on lined paper to him. Because you could just mail him stuff to his old house in Pontiac, and okay, fine. And all these things I noticed in FTL and Bureau and Fringeworthy and Incursion. I found out Bureau and Incursion are in the same universe, and FTL's in a different one, and they're all connected by the fringe paths. And okay, I realized that this just spread like oil on water. All of his stuff was connected. So I started to go on this world, this. He sends me back this manila envelope of all the deep bits that never made it into his books. Didn't really answer the questions. They answered some of them. So that's how I got, And so when the other previous Bureau 13 OGL thing didn't quite work out, I'm sitting there talking with him at a con, and he goes, yeah, I want you to lead the project. Excuse me, huh? What? I said, you have people you've worked with for 40 years. You have graphic artists. You've got technical writers. You've got artists. You have computer programmers. You've got historians. Why me? You love the games. And in 2008, Bureau 13 OGL came out. And Rich was there at a con. I believe it was Confusion, which is the second or third week of January in the Detroit area here. It's sort of our sci-fi media con. And Rich just grabbed one of the CDs out of stock and gave it to me, and I was just stunned. And this was years and years of work, and there it was in my hand, and it's like my name was the second one. Taholka, Pulaski, Sheffer, Ryer, McDonald. And my name was the second one at the bottom, and I was just stunned. I finally had it in my hand. And just, I've even autographed a Bureau 13 OGL CD for one of my con players, Carl Cutler. I know him, and I know his his aunt Lizard or Liz Boss on Facebook, and Carl wanted me to autograph it. It was just mind blowing. And it's like, dude, you know me, we're friends. It doesn't matter. I still want it. Okay, Trav, just didn't do the full name or anything, but I just, yeah, it was, yeah, for oh my god, Rockstar. One of my former fellow podcasters said, yeah, Trav, you're the rock star of all this because you do the show and you have the big digital footprint and all that. That's why. Although coming up like that with pyrotechnics would be cool to con. Just, you'd have the liability thing to deal with, that's all. Be entering the stage like Kevin Hart and shit. So yeah, I worked on that with Bruce and with John, and I originally had met them over like Yahoo groups and all this, and we talked online. I didn't get to meet Bruce and John until Rich's wedding to Mel in 2011. So it was the four of us there together, and it was just weird as hell. Okay, I have to tell this story, and those of you watching, if you know, you know. The first game I ever got to play with Bruce, John, and Bruce's son, Eric. It was at Confusion that year. I was playing, and part of the Fringeworthy lore is that on one of the alternate Earths, the British Empire still, the sun is still never setting. They call it Victorian Earth. And I basically got to play the grown-up version of Tarzan and Jane's Boy. And John was playing, okay, it's in the Fringeworthy lore. Imagine a human-sized dog with no eyes but a radar sense and is an abject coward. All their senses are heightened. They just have no eyes. It's just blank fur and flesh here. But they have a 360 Daredevil type radar sense. And we come out of the portal and we're in a Hummer. And I said, okay, all right, Slarg, I need you to, scan the area. And John, of course, doing a voice like this, oh, yes, it's a Slarg. He's like, oh, it's a big box. I'm face palming there. Bruce is chuckling. Eric's smirking. I'm like, okay, roll down the window and stick your head out. Oh, yeah, I can see much better now. And to this day, so yes, even back then, I was still making mistakes and not thinking. And just, yeah, that's how I introduced and of course, when Bruce saw my laptop and as we call it, folders among folders. And he saw me, yeah, I'm clicking. Okay, I'm here clicking on this. Yeah. Here's a folder. And some more. Oh, let's go to this one. And Bruce is like, oh my God. That's why I told him, I've lost track of and I'm sitting there just clicking going. And he's looking, oh my God, you have, I said, yeah. And that's when I realized I've totally lost count of the number of PDFs I have and books. If I have this many folders broken down all through this for this campaign and this game and that, yeah. But still, it was just, yeah, check it out. It's radar sense and you were an enclosed vehicle. You idiot. And I'll sit there and go to Bruce, hey, Slarg in a box. And just say, all right, you know what? You don't need to beat yourself up. Oh, yeah, I do. Because, yeah, it was funny, but it was me not thinking. Okay. As I said, I'm one of those people, yeah, because I'm Trav, the phone is always there. It's always in my hand. And just, oh, Matmo, you and I are linked on LinkedIn. Okay, cool. There were two Matts, so that one got the nickname of Matmo. I'll have to ask him and the other Matt Gwynn, how that came to be. It was probably, rock, paper, So, yeah, tabletop gaming is my thing. It is my poker night. It is my release. Fur, thankfully, is very kind enough to be very understanding, and is in a couple of the campaigns, too. Fur tends to play, and I think she's starting to shy away from it. She'll convert characters directly from, let's see, in the Friday night, she's playing 100 Eyes from Netflix's Marco Polo. She's played Leo, Anthony Mackie's android from Beyond the Wire on Netflix. We watch a lot of Netflix, so she's the Sunday game she's playing Hakan Demir, Muhafiz, the Protector, which is technically Turkey's first modern superhero, but it's based on stuff all the way back from, the taking of Constantinople in 1452. So, let's see. 100 Eyes, Hakan, Leo. Her one character in my last Bureau 13 campaign was based somewhat loosely on her grandmother Evelyn, a Victorian era pagan high priestess who gets teleported into the future and ends up becoming a virologist. So it was Dr. Evelyn Weaver by the time the campaign was done. So that's another thing. And it's something all early gamers do. It is making characters based on, either doing it outright and just converting them to the campaign. Oh, Uhtred from the Last Kingdom in the last Friday game. She played him too. And I got to do the NPCs like Father Bayoka. Last Kingdom, it's another one I recommend on Netflix. It's wonderful. Seven Kings Must Die just came out a couple months ago and sort of mostly wrapped up the story. Could have been a little more, but it was only a 2-hour movie. Playing characters based on intellectual properties as well. Now, you can either do the clone, like, oh yeah, is he Batman? No, he's Dark Knight. Or, we've all done it. I had Darkhawk back in the day. Yeah. Then there are ones that it is that character. And so you got to work to put the setting in the background into, okay, she did it for an FTL 2448 game. It was modern day, 25th century, and they were all humanoid animal races. So the subtitle of the campaign was FTL 2448 Furries in Space. Because we had a tauric felinoid, humanoid cat, humanoid fox, humanoid lizard. And then Fur played the token human who was a native. What it was, there are long dead races in the FTL fandom, the FTL game. And I had to make a lab world, and basically, yeah, it was like a fantasy world, but it was all, the magic was all psi. Because there's no magic in the FTL game. Not at least in canon. So, yeah, they're in this world that is very reminiscent of Earth history, and the spellcasters, it's all psi, and I use the spell slinger feat from Star Wars D20, where, oh yeah, you use the Force, which is psi. But it's a full round action because you're doing all this and muttering words and, somatic components. And so, yeah, they crash land on this planet and they get involved in the politics, and I use Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics Aerith world for this world. So you had the Frost Baron Barbarians, and I just made Uhtred one of the Frost Baron Barbarians. And Winchester, where Edward and Alfred and all that, if you know your English history with kings, David Dawson playing King Alfred slayed it. I just made that the city, it was the land of Moraine, and Galaron was the capital, and that was the Winchester. And so I did it and got Uhtred in there. And I had to make the NPCs. Father Bayoka, his kids, Abbess Hild, just all of them. And so, yeah, if you are willing to do the time to either have a setting where you could just, okay, this is my clone, or play a character and bring that fandom into a setting, I pulled that off. I was quite surprised that The Last Kingdom worked as well as it did. And so the main thing that Fur had to do was, okay, you have these people with like anti-grav and monofilament blade weapons and power armor that they can make. They just basically dismantled their ship and started a high-tech society on this world because they didn't know when they were going to leave. Technically, they're still on the world, but now they have means to leave. And so here's Fur's character acting as this equivalent 10th century Viking barbarian and dealing with, wait a minute, you do magic but you don't need to chant or wave your hands. No, we just think it happens. So it was culture shock. And Fur played it pretty well, and so we had the other character, okay, just give Uhtred stuff, fancier and better stuff than what he has. Take his armor and add the polymers to it, the polymer spray, and redo his sword that has a monofilament blade, and things like that, because it just was like, okay, yeah, we don't want to freak this guy out too much. And she played him wonderfully. Just And so, adding, if you want to add a fandom to your campaign, you just got to see how it fits. And I've had to, and first give me, okay, with Hakan, trying to make a T-shirt that makes you totally invulnerable, and it's a T-shirt basically. It's a 500-year-old short sleeve brown tan shirt with various runes sewn into it, and it was made by Sultan Mehmet II's top viziers and wizards and priests to fight an immortal. In order to do that, people of this bloodline wore it and made them invulnerable. In modern day, bullets bounce off. He can't drown. He, could go through a raging fire. Doesn't bother him. But making that into something in the game, it's an epic level item. And I had to make Hakan a mythic character using Mythic Adventures. But I did it. There's been a few times where Hakan has actually gotten his chimes rung, but that's because it's like, okay, you know what? This is stuff they had no idea how to even envision back in 1452. Of course, this is a post-apocalyptic setting, so instead of 500 years in the future, it's 1,000 years in the future. Instead of 1453, the shirt was made, it's now like 2508, so like 1,100 years later. And we just said, no, your bloodline's been going this long. So I've had to actually stretch to make some of these characters, and I'm having to. And fandom.com is wonderful because most of the wikis on there are done by the fans, and they're hardcore. The Protector wiki needs some work. If you're watching fandom.com, get cracking on that because it's a wonderful show and people would like to know about it. Actually, Fur is playing an original character now. This is the Saturday. This is the aforementioned Black Thunder. We're sitting here on a Sunday morning. I'm over there. She's sitting here where I am now. And I find this page with Pathfinder homebrew classes. And I go, oh my God, they made a pimp class. And just, I want to play a pimp. Excuse me? What? Wait, what? Whoa, you need more coffee, honey. Now, a bit of background here. My girlfriend, raised in a very small town. Needless to say, the jokes that and honey, I'm merciless with you on these jokes. I love you, but it's part of our banner. She also lived 15 years in the hood of Detroit. So she knows the inner city culture very well. So she said, yeah, and her baby daddy is African American, so okay, yeah, you're watching Superfly tonight, or you're watching, Cleopatra Brown, or whatever. Fine. So this just came out around. I want to play a pimp. What? Wait, whoa, hold it, whoa. This is cup of coffee number 1. I'm not ready for that. So I didn't like that class, so I found other classes to simulate what I saw in it. And so we had Big G on standby. We were, okay, we need to find a way to bring Big G in because she really wanted to play this character. And then here comes the Wold Newton campaign. And all of a sudden, my stuff gets blown up with all the stuff about the 1920s Harlem Renaissance. So, yeah, we made it work. Gerald Moore, a.k.a. Big G, was an up-and-comer in Harlem's underworld in 1924. So this means, yes, Gerald Moore was somewhat of a respectable businessman, but he was also doing all the prohibition stuff and other illegal activities and whatnot. So when my NPC said, okay, I need you to help me out. Why? Because these crime enterprises, the Nazis, the Thuggies, the Yakuza, and the mob, they will come after you. You can either be ready to stop them when they march into Harlem, or you can just let them march into Harlem and they just destroy everything you've built up. And of course, the character, realizing didn't want to lose the business, embracing it, and Morty's like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. So, yeah. That's another thing that I came back to about holding an idea. Don't just scrap the idea, hold it, and it can be used later. That's another example for playing Big G. And she's having a ball. And I have as an NPC, the pulp scientist, the genius girl who is the polymath scientist, and is considered fringe scientist by the world because one of her projects didn't work for the War Department, so they let her go. And so Dale took her in, so now she has funding again. And so it's this very large black man, 6'3", 200 pounds. And kind of imagine a little more heavy-set Agnes Girardi from Star Trek Picard Season 1 and 2. That's Dr. Elizabeth Herbert. It's based on an old girlfriend of mine who was very techie. And so, and of course, first throwing in the bits of Shamar Moore, I believe, from Criminal Minds, calling Dr. Herbert baby girl. And it's because it's kind of become the team's worst kept secret that these two are crushing on each other. It's also 1924, though. Now, my NPC, a very cosmopolitan millionaire. He's been around the world, and he isn't doing all the, the terms, or I believe the term was colored back then, them and this, and he tries to be very open about everything. So it's like, I don't care if you two have a romantic engagement, Mr. Moore. 1, both of you work for me. 2, do not let it get in the way of us being, trying to save this city. So yeah, she's there like, yeah, baby girl, what's going on? Well, I'm trying to do this and figure. And it was funny because we role played it, and I was there in character as Dr. Herbert, and Fur came up with an idea about something they use that would apply, and just oh my God, yeah, Gerald, that's a fantastic idea. That might actually, So it was just Big G's time had come. It's now here. Fur's having a ball with the character. She's adding a little bit of what she learned living in the hood for 15 years. And if you know Detroit, we're talking 7 Mile and Rutherford. If you know, you know. When I first knew Fur and I started 5 years ago, that's where she was living. So my trailer trash white suburban ass is sitting there going there, and I'm just like, I don't want to be here. And just so she's putting that knowledge that she's learned into the character. And it makes the character more your own because you're putting yourself into it. And player characters, if you do that, I mean, I'll add, if I play an NPC who's, it's just another variation of me. Oh no, fine. No, this character comes from Detroit, has a great Aunt Kate who made wonderful key lime pie, has a younger brother, and I throw all that in there. Oh yeah, the time I went to, this place, and if it's in Detroit area, you know where it is. And just, players and GMs putting themselves into the characters, it gives a little more and not only verisimilitude, it also gives a little more agency for you to be you, yet still have this offset, different, compartmentalized part of your mind where you get to be you, but not you. Yeah, so you have this synthesis of, and it works probably better in modern or far future campaigns. You can do it in a fantasy campaign. It's like, oh, my father was a farmer. Yeah, my dad was a farmer. He grew corn for the king, and you can throw in, Fur kind of do that with, her. Yeah. See, this is what I mean about her in the small town and me busting her chops all the time. Just love you, honey. So yeah, when you put a little bit of your own life into, if you're a player, if you're a GM doing an NPC, if you're putting in, heck, I put parts of my hometown in that Robotech campaign. The place where my old high school used to be, that's where I put the Fringe Warp for that particular world. I said, yeah, and I drove, I think Colleen and Zena, I think I drove Fur and the kids by. I said, the warp is right there. They're like, what? Wait, what? I said, yeah, that's where I put it. I wrote it in the book and realized, no, it's right there on the grounds of what was Quirk School and now is Quirk Park in Van Buren Township, Michigan. So, yeah. So it just adds that little personal touch, so to speak. Or again, as Rich used to say, something mundane that you can hang on the peg of the fantastic. Oh, speaking of adding fantastic to mundane, there is something else I did as project head of Bureau 13D20. Now, I'm going to get this because it is a very important book to me. I will get it right here. Excuse me. Yes, you can see my t-shirt better. Okay. If you are doing OGL, this book here is indispensable to you. It is the Second World Source Book by Stephen Palmer Peterson. There we go. Multiplanar gaming, adding rules from D20 Modern to D&D 3.0, 3.5. And it gives a whole setting in here of, okay, you're in the real world and you see weird mystical stuff, and if you don't get it out of your head, or you just don't forget about it, it's stuck in your head, you'll turn a corner, end up in the second world, and after a while you get erased from existence in your home world. Here on the... where is that? Open content. Here we go. Basically, it says, except for the word second world simulation, everything in this book can be used. Not just the rules, but the setting. I got permission from Steve Peterson on one of his old forums. The second world setting is now Bureau 13 and therefore Tri-Tech canon. There were facets of the world I put in, and then on the podcast I elaborated on it. So the second world, and it's funny because one of the things we do in the Adding to Fringeworthy 2 series on Gaming on the Frontier is I have printed out all of the worlds from all 4 Portals books that Richard DeHulka made. Now over there, I have a big blue binder. It is every world that Rich made for Fringeworthy. And if I find a world that, it'll fit here. Okay, this world is for Supernatural. Colleen wrote, something about the meat pies. Okay, that's Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd exists there. Over here. He actually put the Kelvin timeline, basically the Riverside, Iowa docks and all that. He put that in Portals 3. And so you could technically have a Star Trek, and I have a Star Trek Kelvin campaign in my Tohokaverse metaverse that I do. And so here's, you just have all these settings that, all these worlds. Oh no, the Kelvin timeline, that's another one. I had fun with that one too because I linked that to Bureau 13 games. So now there secretly is magic in the Kelvin 13 universe in my metaverse. It's still behind the scenes, and there is a part of Section 31 which deals with that. My next Saturday game will be a spin-off of the previous Star Trek campaign, and I ran on Thursday night, and it's... okay, in the previous game, they found this system, medieval-level technology, yet there are signs of magic there. Okay, Jeff's character, him and Carrie don't get along, so he left. Fine, that's... Jeff's character, Captain McCoy, now has a ship, and so that ship is going to explore said system near the center of the galaxy that has magic. Now, if you remember the old animated episode, Megas 2, where magic works in that world as opposed to science, and Sulu was summoning stuff, and Spock was doing telekinesis, was 3D chess, and all that. It's close to that area, so magic has been there for a little while. And so I'm using the Gilded Sun setting from Golden Celestial Games for that. As I said, I have all these settings and products that I use. I'm not getting endorsed by any of them. This is just the stuff I know that works. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting coming up. It's like you have, the whole Prime Directive thing. You have the fact that, you have a starship and you're hovering over this planet. You can be anywhere in this system in a matter of minutes. Yeah. So, and we already have an Orion counselor, that's Fur, the human captain. Todd is going to play an Andorian security chief. So I had to research the Andorian race, and their Ushan Tor that Shran used in Enterprise, that's an Inuit Ulu. It's an ice carver. They do everything from cut their kids' hair to cut whale blubber to build igloos with this tool. It's a multi-purpose snow carving tool. And they just turned into something that was a weapon for Andorians. Again, it's researching. Memory Alpha is a wonderful thing. Memory Beta is also pretty helpful. That's just all the non-canon Trek. So, yeah. The whole thing with me and role playing, it is a love affair that will never end. It is something that is, for me, non negotiable. I do these games. These are my poker night. This is how I get my release. If I'm stressed out, I work on the games. And Fur will sit there. What is it? Oh, you're going down the rabbit hole. Yeah, don't forget to eat and go to the bathroom every once in a while. You know. And so it's to the point, if I'm so frazzled that I can't work on my games, that's a problem. That's where it's like, okay, this is really bad, where I don't want to work on my games to try to calm down. Because it gets me out of my head for a while. I can sit there and think of other worlds. During the games, I'm other characters, and just, yeah, it's my release. It's what I do. And being an autistic in a neurotypical world is not always easy. So it's another way, we autistic get in our own worlds, is just I'm willing to share my worlds with other people, the people I care about. And I treat my gamers as family. If you know me and you know my family, it's like that. That's always, because we let the zingers fly. Just, yeah, we'll sit there and it'll be a chop busting session for about 10 minutes, giving each other crap, and then we get back to the game. So yeah, that's another thing. As far as, lack of adversarial relationship, you get a good gaming group, they'll become like family. And it's wonderful because they'll come back again and again. Oh, you want to do this scenario? Or, okay, you want to do this? What do you want to play? Well, I've always wanted to do one of these. And if players can help build the campaign before it even starts, even better. Putting themselves into it to give themselves a little more agency. Cool, great, wonderful. That means it works. Try to keep my kids' younger pictures out of there. But Dad, why you got that picture of me when I was 6? By the way, for those of you who don't know, I have a child who just turned 29 back November 2nd. Their name is Shelley. And there are pictures back here of Shelley many, many ages ago. So yeah, let's try, this. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. Move this over here. Still doing screen setup and everything, folks, here, so. There we go. Much better. Everything is all concentrated here in one area. Yeah, so is there anything, because it's 10:02 now, I can go on for probably another 10 minutes. Yeah. This was just sort of freeform. This was just sort of, hey, look, this is, why I'm here, the things that I do. Here's some examples of what I've done. This is my curriculum vitae. It's sort of like my, what's the best way to describe it? Audition, as it were. Because obviously I will have to come up with more things for next week and more of a detailed game plan. Okay, this week we're going to talk about this, with this week this. But yeah, this was just me sort of having, getting welcomed by all of you to talk about role-playing games and what they mean to people and how you go about doing it. And just, it is a hobby that has treated me wonderfully over the past 35 years, and I hope it does so for many years to come. I hope to have many more adventures with the people at my table. And I've done virtual gaming due to the pandemic, and yes, I know about a month ago it wrapped up. There is no officially public emergency. COVID's still here. I'm going to say this, get the goddamn vaccine. And that's not political, that's helping save your lives, so you can come and watch us more. As I said, I will be here Monday nights from 8 to 10, barring tech issues, Eastern, because I'm in the Detroit area. I will be back here tomorrow night, and it will be me doing the Travcast Part 3 of Blind Wolf's Rubber Room Association on dementiaradio.org. Now, dementia is what we call comedy and novelty music, named after Dr. Demento. Barrett Hansen, great guy, met him back in 2014. So yeah, what I'll be doing is I'll be having to run all this plus Winamp and Shoutcast. There might be some lagging because I'm maybe running like 15 different programs at once. But it will be myself and fellow Twitch people Jeff DeRef and Breakman Z. And what it is that we do is I play comedy and novelty music. I play mashups. Now, the comedy and novelty music, if it's not done by the Creative Commons license, I have to turn the music down. So this means you're only going to be hearing part of the music. I'll turn it back up when it's a dementia song. Because even like comedy bits, let's say I play George Carlin, that's still copyrighted. I could get in trouble. So there's going to be a lot of volume adjustment. But also I have Jeff and Z over Discord on here. Plus I have the Dementia Radio chat room going on. So yeah, and plus I'm going to be flipping between windows. This is going to be more tech for me to run. But I'm here on Twitch to get away from posting on Facebook Live and, having Fuckerberg there. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. I've been doing this now for an hour 40. I didn't get started till 8:25. Hell, okay. Well, I want to thank you all for watching and tuning in. This was a lot of fun. It got me to remember some really cool stuff about my past as somebody in the tabletop gaming community. It got me to relate some stories I haven't told in a long time. And hopefully giving all of you advice on how to be a better player, a better game master, hopefully a better game designer. You get into podcasting about gaming, stuff you can talk about. And you might even get some life tips because I'm 54. I've seen some stuff, both on both sides of the table and away from the gaming table. There are times because that stuff away from the gaming table, I come home wanting to hide under the gaming table because that's life. That's how it gets out there. You were to use tabletop role-playing games as a diversion to help you get through stuff. You could work out problems. It's just obviously I don't recommend if you were a minor, you do your homework first. I have kicked minors from my table because of their grades, and I'm often harder on them than their parents are as far as grades go. Because I did it as a kid. I'd be sitting there with, here's my biology book and the DM guide behind it. I've done it. I know what happens. So I tend to be a stickler on, hey, look, this is you not in my campaign until I see a report card. Problem is now they give report cards via text. So I can just sit there and ask the parent, yeah, your kid's in my class, you get a text from your teacher. What's their current grades? Oh, they have... And now I'm thinking of the Stephen He. You know the C stand for the failure. Yeah. What the hell? Yeah. So yeah, it's... If you are a minor, you are to do your homework first. Get your permissions from your parents if you're going to join a role-playing group. And yeah, still, remember the GM has the right to just say, oh no, I don't like your grades. You're not coming back. Tell your mom you're not getting dropped off here until your grades improve. So yeah, that's another thing. It's just, I'm... Because also, first, kids have been in the games that I've run, and so if they're, it's like, oh no. And yeah, obviously, if there are learning disabilities involved, some grades are going to be worse than others. Okay, fine, I'll let you slide on that. You have issues with that. I had issues on certain classes as well. But if I know full well that a kid can do this, oh no. My former neighbor, Bad Kitty, who lived down there in 103, her middle son, DJ, was in my... And he was screwing around and not getting the grades, so I kicked him out. I said, you're not coming back until I get a decent progress report. Your mother's going to show me. And so DJ comes back one night. It was a Sunday game, really late. Everybody was here around the old table I had. And we see the grades, and it's straight A's right down the board. And we just all looked at him like this. And he just had that look like, fuck. Because he realized... There's no going back. You've proven you got straight A's. You have no excuses on this planet now, child. He ended up being one of those January graduates because he had to go to summer school. But no, during the entire summer, he was out of my game. Because he was 17. I said, you're still a minor. I don't even care how big you are. You're 6'3", 200. I don't care. You're still a minor. You're here because your mother and I agreed to play the game. But if your grades aren't good enough, you're not doing it. Go back downstairs. And then he gets straight A's, and we were just all like, you have no more excuses. Get your dice and sit down. Yeah. So, all right. Thanking everybody for tuning in, watching. I will be back tomorrow night here, 8 to 10 p.m. for doing my show, the Travcast. My links for Dementia Radio and for Gaming on the Frontier podcast are on my Twitch page. Yeah, as I said, I've been doing the show for 17 years. I've been on the podcast for 13 years. I have some experience. Yeah. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I'm going to wrap this up here because I've been going now for about an hour 45. Really don't have anything else to say, and I'm going to be crass. I've been drinking too much apple cider. I got to use the bathroom, so I'm going to wrap it up here tonight. Next week I will have a game plan. I will have a subject topic. I will have an outline to have all fleshed out and ready to go. And yeah, you'll find out shortly after I find out, because I'll probably be either working on it Monday night before the show after I get home from work, or maybe throughout the weekend write down a 3x5 card and say, okay, what am I talking about this week? So yes, I need to find an outro, a phrase, and it's got to be different than what I say in the podcast or what I say on my show. On the podcast, there's a reason why it's called gaming. It's for having fun. And on the show, it's, as my dear late friend Milt Weeks would say, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back next week. Let's see. I will come up with something. But until then, much gratitude for putting up with me for the last hour 45 minutes. And again, excuse the lack of tech readiness. I had to disconnect and reconnect my Twitch account. So, for those of you in the chat room, thank you for jumping in. For those of you watching, either now or later on, trust me, it's only going to get better from here, folks. Good night.